program and a purpose.
I've always thought there was great value in people that have been around the block and have been through things. We're all just trying to build on the foundation that he's laid.
The way he treats his players, fans, alumni, he's the right guy for Virginia Tech. Sounds a lot like the guy before him. I like to think so. You know, Frank and Cheryl were supposed to be here today at the OU Texas game. Their son Shane is an assistant coach with Oklahoma. But Reese, statue unveiling or Shane? I think Shane will understand.
I think you will too. Shane does a sensational job with Georgia, now with Oklahoma. And certainly shout out to Frank for getting that statue unveiled. Take pictures for the traditional hug from the head coach of the Longhorns, Tom Herman. Tom Herman hoping he can get his team past OU, maybe take a big step in their program development. It's the one job for Texas. Maria and Dave will tell us how they perhaps struggled in the singular job that they had last week. You know what happened? The last 7 times Corso has picked OU. No! He's been on a cold streak with his
Countdown to Kickoff is brought to you by Coke Zero Sugar.
It can seem unreachable at first. The bar too high, shoes too big. You'll take leaps of faith and fall on your face. But you'll get it. Hard work is 50 sprints before breakfast and another 50 for breakfast. You eat it, breathe it, sleep it. The Goodyear blimp doesn't show up for just anybody, so don't be just anybody. Be worthy. Goodyear, more driven.
Oh, Eric! I didn't know you worked at the UPS store.
Yeah, we printed that sign.
I thought you just did shipping.
Oh, no, we do printing, packing, notarizing, faxing, shredding, mailboxing, taping, laminating, consulting, grading, designing, returning, and of course, shipping.
I can't feel my legs. I should really get you home.
From printing to packing to mailboxing, go to the UPS store for everything your small business needs. And of course, shipping.
I'm always going to be a maker, and I think a company is the coolest thing you can build. I'm Adam, and I make robots. You never know when inspiration is going to strike, so I take my Surface Pro everywhere. Part of an entrepreneur's job is to get stuff done. I like to do like 4 things at once. The new Surface Pro can handle all of my programs. I can paint, I can mold, I can code. I have it on all the time. It's fantastic. We get to build toys for kids and change the world. It's a big deal.
Thanks. It's like a smart thing. What's the weather?
Sunny. Perfect chicken eating weather.
How'd you get in here?
It's time for chicken.
What's the traffic like?
Rerouting you to chicken.
Okay. Hey, guys, order pizza.
Ordering chicken.
No, pizza.
Chicken.
Okay, chicken it is.
Chick-fil-A nuggets make dinner delightful.
Now that's smart.
Buy it once, then buy it well. The men who know things know this. Worthwhile and well-made are the qualities that attract them. Because they know that a sea of mediocre will never yield an ounce of great. We understand these men. We make their shoes. Allen Edmonds. Real shoes. Enjoy up to 30% off in stores or online at allenedmonds.com. Sale ends October 24th.
You don't need any special training to start slinging.
But you do need to limber up.
Breathe, Daddy. Yeah, there you go, breathe. Look at me, no crying, no crying.
Hey guys, the game's about to start.
You can pull a hammy slinging if you don't warm up. One last push. We were slinging until well past midnight.
So my quads seized up.
Sling TV is the live TV you love with no long-term contracts. Only $25 a month. Watch 7 days free at slingtv.com.
Get ready for an all-new auto trader. Now with the power of Kelly Blue Book Price Advisor. So you can find a car at a fair price, faster. Shop all the cars like never before with the all-new Auto Trader.
Bad Times at the El Royale is the best thriller in years.
Would you mind opening up the door?
No, I ain't gonna be
Staring into original. No one here is innocent. 4 stars.
something, don't you?
Bad Times at the El Royale. Rated R.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Unacceptable currency. Lack of greenbacks on the transaction.
You had one job. Brought to you by Geico.
And what else could you need but to be in Dallas on the fairgrounds representing on the Red River Showdown? The rain is starting to fall. Costumes are good, signs are good. They're going to be raises next. More to come on College Game Day. All access. Tyler Murray, he prepared for his first start in the Red River Showdown. Of course, looking ahead to his baseball career. Medical issues. This plaguing teams across the SEC. They call it family-titus. Will we ever find a cure? You can contribute and help now. And Tony Keith will join us as our guest picker a little bit later on in Country Music Sunday.
All right. Good morning to everyone out there. It's a college football Saturday, so that's always a good thing. I hope everything's going well in your world. This is the Mark Rogers TV world. It's your world as well as we bring you in on the live chat, of course. And we've got the call-in number ready to roll for the next hour plus, 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. When we're off hours, now keep in mind that that's not going to ring through to me. So we've taken the proper safeguards there. 860-325-3687. Only had a couple calls in the off hours when I wasn't taking calls and wasn't on a live stream. So a couple of people have tried. I don't think out of any kind of malice. I think it was just basically they thought I was still broadcasting at that point. This is Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We do this each and every Saturday, excluding maybe next Saturday, because my daughter's got a family weekend at college. And we've got a call coming in. Before I can introduce anything or talk about anything, we've got a call coming in, so that's a good thing. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Bash Gaming.
Whatever you want to call me.
Is this a new delivery that you have? It's kind of a, you got a little bit of a low bass tone, a little gravel in the throat, or is this just your morning voice?
I guess it's my morning voice.
Okay. How's it going, man?
I don't know. Maybe it's my son getting a little bit on the old part. Hey, kind of another day where we're not going to have too much, but the Texas Oklahoma game is going to be very fun to watch. And Ohio State needs to be on the lookout. They definitely need to be awake today. Other than that, though, not really that much.
Okay, so you don't get excited. Yeah, LSU, Florida. Do you think maybe Michigan should be on upset alert?
No, I don't think so. I think they're going to show up against Maryland. They seem to just be inconsistent. The inconsistency we talk about with Michigan, they just are inconsistent in the big games, is what it seems to be under Harbaugh. I mean, I don't remember the last time they've had a pretty big upset when they were favored by 17 points, or I think it's 17 points right now.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time they were upset like that under Harbaugh. I don't think they were. So I don't think they're on upset alert at all. But, of course, there's always that chance. College football is crazy like that. And, it's a college football Saturday, so of course I'm excited. I was a little more excited for last week, as you know.
I know you were.
Last week did let me down. So you were right. But that last game with Ohio State, Penn State was very good. Yeah, I mean,
So what?
an empty day, but I got text. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, so I'm looking at the schedule right now because I've got my picks laid out here. Hopefully people have checked out my picks. I'm, I guess, on the odd weeks, not doing so. No, the odd weeks have been the bad weeks or the good weeks, whatever it is. I'm hoping to keep up a hot streak, but I'm looking at the picks right now. And so obviously, yeah, Texas, Oklahoma. Going to throw out a few games that don't involve the elites because we're always talking about the elites. And I know that I got to serve the audience because everybody's throwing out all the Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama games all the time and the other games that are on the radar nationally. But I know that you go down to the second tier, if not further than that. And I like some of these second tier games, Northwestern at Michigan State, Missouri at South Carolina, BC's at North Carolina State. There's a couple like that.
I'm excited for that NC State Boston College, kind of keep track of that. You know, my main focus though is going to be on Texas, Oklahoma. But if you Northwestern, Michigan State, Northwestern's chance to have a big win was last week, and they let that slip away. I think they're too physically beaten down to come out with a win here against Michigan State. But I wouldn't be surprised if they won. I just don't think it will happen just because of the physicality of that game last week in Evanston against Michigan. But, you know, there are a couple games that, you know, I'm expecting a really good game and going to definitely want to tune into those. And that's both 3:30 and 4 o'clock. You got Arizona State and Colorado, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. I wouldn't be surprised if the two unranked teams in those matchups win. I got Colorado winning, which is a ranked team, and Iowa State winning, which is an unranked team. But if Arizona State wins and Iowa State wins, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
All right, Bash Gaming. I'm going to get the number out there for Victor, I believe, who wants the phone number, 860-325-3687. I've got the phone in my hand. Oh, Bash, I didn't say you had to hang up. Okay. I was just getting a phone number out there is what I was telling Bash Gaming. So, Bash Gaming, if you still have other things to tell me, then certainly jump back on the line. But for right there, I was just letting Victor and others know what the number is, which is 860-325-3687. So we've got LSU, Florida prediction and a preview. That would be prediction and preview videos available. It's always a tough grind early in the morning for me. For those of you who've been watching a lot or watched for a long time, you know, I'm a late night guy. And so the words typically come out pretty smoothly past about 7 p.m. Before that, it's a little difficult, especially at 10 o'clock in the morning. So the alarm goes off at 9:30. And then I hesitate and think, do I go ahead and do the live stream at 10 o'clock? I am dead. I am dead to the world. Then I think, okay, for the 15 people that are going to be watching at any one time, which is 22 right now, so thank you for joining us, that I'll jump on the line and do it. And no breakfast in my belly, no nothing to get me jump started. I don't drink coffee. I told a story a couple of weeks ago about never drinking coffee. The only time I have is because I was broadcasting a high school playoff game, football playoff game. Got a call coming in, and it was like 8 degrees below zero, and I just needed the hot coffee to help me out. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is Victor. Appreciate you posting your number.
Of course, Victor. How are you?
I'm doing great. I got a few questions. One, we need to get a super chat on this on your website.
Super chat. I have seen that. I don't know what it's all about, though.
It's a button where we can contribute to with PayPal to help contribute to your channel.
Here is Victor commenting for the first time on the phone. I don't know how many times, Victor, that you've commented elsewhere on the live chat or on any comments. I haven't seen your name before, so I apologize if I've not gotten back to you. But Victor showing up for me on the very first comment, so I appreciate that, Victor.
No problem. I got a quick question.
Sure.
Who do you think is going to win the Heisman Trophy this season?
Okay, so there are 3 criteria that I believe stand out in the Heisman Trophy voting, that a player needs a strong check mark in at least 2 of these 3 boxes. I think that number 1 are just sheer statistics. Sometimes we just get blown away by a running back who's going to run for 2,000 yards or 52 touchdown passes, and I'm being a bit ridiculous, but the sheer statistics. And I think the further we go along in time, the more the statistics drive it, because people are so hypersensitive to the numbers. And I mean that in a very neutral way, hypersensitive to the numbers, because we've got so many numbers and statistics and analytics at our fingertips. So numbers would be number 1. Number 2 would be highlight plays. Who has made the highlight plays, either because it was such a ridiculously athletic play and such a freakishly athletic play that it stands out, even if it was in a 45-0 game, or more importantly, it was a game-changing play that won a big game. I think back to Charles Woodson, who played defensive back primarily in 1997 for Michigan. And although he came off the bench as an offensive player and they started to use him mostly as a decoy on offense, that he did make some plays offensively, but he caught like 5 or 6 passes. And as a defensive back, of course, you can only intercept so many passes. But he made about 3 or 4 game-changing plays in big games against Michigan State and most notably against Ohio State that I think really turned the vote to him over Peyton Manning that particular year. So you've got the highlight plays, you've got the stats, and number 3, I think, is winning. Obviously, a quarterback of a 12-0 team has a huge advantage over a quarterback of an 8-4 team, although we saw RG3 in 2011 win the Heisman with an 8-4 team because he made those kind of athletic plays and blew us away with stats. So that being said, we bring us Tua Tagovailoa, who I believe is playing the position better than anyone. And of course, we can focus this on quarterbacks first and foremost, and then running backs, then wide receivers, and then everybody else is pretty much eliminated, even though it's supposed to go to the best player. It goes to the best skill player. So right now, I'm going Tagovailoa. I would urge you to check out the video that we posted with the guy from sportsinfo.com, Steve Merrill, just a couple of days ago. That was actually just yesterday on the betting lines for week 6, because we talked Heisman odds. I led into that segment to say, I don't see much has changed since the offseason, and I haven't looked at the Heisman odds. I was just, he was going to present the Heisman odds were just updated by Vegas, except for Bryce Love. Statistically is nowhere close to where he was at this point last year and has been taken off the radar to a certain extent. And he said, yeah, he's fallen to 5th or 6th in the Heisman balloting. So right now, off the top of my head, I'm going Tua number 1, Dwayne Haskins number 2. And I'm trying to think of a running back. We got Kyler Murray. I guess I go with Murray at 3. Now that's what I would vote, and it also is what I believe the voters would vote tomorrow. Or I guess today, because we haven't played the games today. You get my point.
Yeah, I think it's kind of odd how we have some of these Heisman Trophy winners in the college ranks, and then they flop in the NFL. It's just a weird little coincidence, I think.
So what go ahead, Victor.
Thanks for the call. Let you go.
Sure.
And love your channel.
I appreciate it.
Pigskin Pete is in our chat, so we're doing something right.
Pigskin Pete, that's right. We've connected many times on social media. Unfortunately, we've yet to get him on. We've had some technical issues, but we hope to do that at some point. Thanks, Victor. You have a great day.
Thanks, Mark.
Victor, trying to help me out on the super chat. So I'm going to write that down, super chat. I've got to get on that because that would be a good thing. A good thing primarily for me, but by extension for you. Yes, Pigskin Pete, I've invited him on. He has graciously accepted, and we've just had issues connecting via video. So would love to have Pigskin Pete on again. So yeah, the Heisman Trophy. So a couple things bother me about the Heisman Trophy. First and foremost, as a guy who thinks we so much undervalue linemen and other positions, of course, it doesn't go to the best player. The best player might be a left tackle for Alabama. We've known that from the past. Orlando Pace, NFL scouts will tell us generally who is considered to be the most valuable or the best player in the college game. So that's one thing. It's given to the best skill player. Maybe it's the most valuable player because the quarterback is more valuable than anybody on the field. I would argue that maybe the offensive line as a unit, as 5 players, might be just as or more important than the quarterback, depending on the style of offense, depending on how good the quarterback is, or how negative of a quarterback play factors into your offensive system based on trying to cover up his play with good complementary players. The second thing about the Heisman Trophy that bothers me is what Victor alluded to is sometimes these guys have great college careers. They win the Heisman Trophy. They go to the NFL. They flop. And then people talk about them. And I'm not talking about people that are really in the know or correctly rate these things, but just in conversation with people, I've noticed that then their college career is tarnished by their lack of production in the NFL. And I just think that that's unfair because I think that they should be separated. Now, if you're Peyton Manning, you had a great college career and a great pro career, and you're one of the all-time greats, even more so. Certainly. But I don't think a college career should be marred, especially if we're having a college conversation. So if we're having a conversation and during the offseason, I take the time to rank all-time players at each position. If we do a ranking of all-time quarterbacks, my top 10 quarterbacks are going to have nothing to do with their production in the NFL. Tom Brady is not going to be on my list of top 10 college football quarterbacks. All right. Peyton Manning's college career is not going to be enhanced by what he did in the NFL. I would strictly rate the top 10 quarterbacks in college football history. All right. 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. We've got previews and predictions out there. Especially thought that the conversation with Matt Moscona from ESPN Radio from Baton Rouge and New Orleans was a good one yesterday, previewing, of course, LSU in Florida. We had the Florida side from David Waters from Gators Breakdown. You can catch that in the live stream from Thursday night. OU Texas, we've talked that up as well on a number of videos. Again, it's that talking thing early in the morning. Notre Dame and Virginia Tech as well. We've talked that one up. Kentucky, Texas A&M with a preview from Last Word on College Football Thursday night. Miami, Florida State. We've hit that from both angles with Cam Underwood from State of the U and James Coleman from Gridiron Now. And, of course, plenty of betting and talking the lines with Steve Merrill. And I've got my predictions out. So check out the predictions video that I released last night. I am going to try to get those predictions done earlier in the week. Because, well, last season, what I typically would do would be at 11:45 think, oh, man, these games kick off at noon. I got to get my predictions on record because I don't want to be up here saying, yeah, I went 22-2 last week and there's no record of it. I got to get the prediction videos out there. So they've been very late on Friday night most of the season this season. And I had attempted and thought that this season I want to stick to a Wednesday release for my predictions, but hey, I'm doing all this other stuff. And so I have let those go until late Friday. So please check out the predictions. Hopefully we can stay hot. 17-6 against the spread last week, 60-45 against the spread. That's about 58%. And 58% was the record against the spread last year. So I think we've got a trend going, and pretty much 58%. I've gone anywhere from like 53 to 60% against the spread every year I've been doing this. 99-22 straight up. So I mentioned this the other day that it's interesting, at least to me, and this is my playoff shirt that I'm wearing. Unfortunately, game one was a big flop, 7-2 against the Stros. So we went with the the actual merchandise and logo shirt today. I think this is a first at Mark Rogers TV in 7,000 videos where I've got a team shirt on. So you're not going to see this, but you see it today. And this would be the longest the beard's ever been on any of my videos, I would think. But what's interesting to me is I have tracked the number of upsets per week. That's straight up upsets on the field versus the Vegas line. So, for example, Texas Tech a couple of weeks ago was a 14-point dog against Oklahoma State, and they won that game straight up. This has happened now in the games that I predict, which are the top 25 games plus a few others. So I take all the top 25 games, regardless of how ridiculous the line or ridiculous the matchup, Auburn and Citadel, for example. I pick all the top 25 games. If there's no line, then I throw those out, of course. And then I take interesting games outside the top 25, like BC and North Carolina State, like Northwestern Michigan State. I take some interesting games that I think are relevant and that at least interest me, and I pick those games too. So I typically pick at least 20 games, 20 to 25 games. So I've picked 105 games against the spread this season. 105 against the spread. And let's see, there have been 24 upsets out of 105 games. Now, I personally have predicted 16 upsets, so I should be predicting more upsets. I've only picked 16. There have been 24. So I've said this over and over. I think most of us tend to be conservative with our predictions, me included. But so I've looked for, because there's been 4 to 6 upsets per week, I'm now looking, scanning the list of games for upsets, and I am forcing myself to find those upsets. And by doing that, I've done rather well. I have predicted 16 upsets, and 10 of them have proven right. 10 out of 16. So think about this. If you're into money management, that these pay off big. 10-6 doesn't sound great, but think about it. All these teams are decided underdogs. Therefore, typically the payoff, let's see, on a $100 bet would be about 120 to 150 on these games. I'm picking teams that are 6-point dogs, 4-point dogs, 7-point dogs in the case of Florida against Mississippi State last week. Well, they're going to pay off about 120 to 150 on a $100 bet. Therefore, I've got 10 right and 6 wrong. Well, the 6 wrong would have lost $600, but the 10 right at roughly 140 to 150 per are going to bring in 14 to 1500 bucks. So you're up $800 or $900 on only 16 games. All right, enough of that. You guys probably aren't too interested in that, but if you are, Steve Merrill and I get together for a fascinating conversation on the betting lines each and every week. That's Friday at 11:45 Eastern time. Friday at 11:45 Eastern time. That's Friday morning. So I'm talking like this. At 11:45 a.m. Eastern time every Friday with Steve Merrill. Then we turn around a segment for SG1 Sports. So we've done some work for SG1 Sports. They've kindly offered me some work of sorts and want me to provide them with as much content as I possibly can. So that's typically been, I've said, this is what I can do. 3 previews per week with predictions, and then I can give you a betting segment. So there's also a betting segment on there where Steve runs down the top 3 games of the week and also gives us a sleeper pick, a confidence pick of sorts. So I will not give that away, but on SG1 Sports, we've got a betting video out on the top 3 games of the week, plus his sleeper pick. Plus, I have predicted the videos and selected Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, OU, Texas, and LSU in Florida. You can catch those on SG1 Sports in addition to the previews and predictions right here. All right. What do we go to next? I always love to run down the TV schedule and let you know how I'm going to strategize for the day. And I'll go to live chat in just a second, see if I've missed anything, because I don't want to miss the live chat. I've somewhat ignored the live chat with so much talk and the phone calls, of course, which are nice. 860-325-3687. So if there's something that you want to get to me, and you guys have a great time on the live chat, you don't need me. I could set up the live chat and walk away for 4 hours, and you guys would be just fine. And Dennis has, I hope Dennis is still on the line here. Dennis has suggested a name for the live chat. Dennis has suggested a name for the live chat, which I believe is the Dog Pound. Now, see, Dennis gets that from me being a Cleveland Browns fan. And if anybody was going to question, and we can discuss my fandom of different teams, because it's a fun conversation that we can kick around stories and so forth. My love of the Cleveland Browns is not exactly that. It's a kind of a forced decision to a certain extent. And I've told the story before. I won't tell it now. So Dennis trumps me up and hypes me up a little bit heavy on the Browns side. But he wants to call the chat room the Dog Pound. And the only reason I'm suggesting any name is because we were on a couple nights ago, and I think Navy Thomas led the charge in saying this is the best chat room in college football. And I said, absolutely it is. You guys, if you guys weren't on here peppering me with questions and criticism, and I mean that in a good way, and comments and debating me and debating each other and talking it up, then I would give up. I wouldn't be doing this at all. Believe me. So therefore, you guys make this. You guys ultimately make this. When I came up with the name of Voice of College Football, you know where I came up with that? Basically, somebody at some point wrote me a comment, and I thought it was kind of funny because they didn't say, you're the voice of college football, or you should be calling yourself the voice of college football. They made it kind of a matter-of-fact statement. They were asking me a question about something else. And they said, well, as the de facto voice of college football online, blah, 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 I'm asking you such and such. And I thought, hey, he just gave me a name. He just called me the voice of college football. So I'm going to run with that. I threw it by about 5 people, and they saw it. Absolutely, you go with that. So what I'm about to say, or what's starting to say, is that if you've got a comment specifically for me on the live chat, I'm probably going to miss it. So just call in 860-325-3687 or send the comment into one of the videos, because that stays with the video. The live chat is generally gone unless you search through the live stream on the replay and find it in the scroll, which is difficult to do. So if you've got a question or comment specifically for me, leave it in the comments section, and or call 860-325-3687. If I don't answer your comment, it's only because our comments have exploded over the last several months, and that's thanks to you. So I try to get back to everyone. I try to scan the comments and see if somebody new has jumped on and get back to them. I try to see if somebody has really taken the time to try to analyze something. If you're just saying go Gators like George does about 14 times a day, I may not respond to that all the time. And I appreciate George commenting more than anybody, because I know what he's doing. He's basically supporting the channel. So thanks for jumping on board. All right. Before I get to the TV schedule, I will assure everyone that I am purchasing helmets. I went online a couple times to purchase helmets, and I don't know the exact. See, I've got a helmet guy at work. Basically, this is the guy that had me buy the initial helmets because he had them at his desk, and he just said, why don't you buy some helmets and put them on your set? And it was right around college football playoff time in 2016, and I said, okay, let's start with the 4 playoff teams for this year. So that's the reason why we've got the 4 playoff teams from 2 years ago. And then I added from there at a little swag sale, Ole Miss and Tennessee, just because they were there. So I am purchasing helmets, but I've gone online, and then I'm like, okay, I don't know which. I see all these descriptions, and I'm trying to figure out what size are those. Are they 5.5s or 6.5? I see different inch sizes, and I don't know which one they are, and I want to match them all. So I've asked him, and he'll get back to me at some point. So it's Oklahoma and Miami definitely going to the set. And while I'm purchasing, I'm probably not going to just take 2. I may take 10. Plus a wild card. I had North Dakota State voted on, and Mount Union and Toledo and Akron. Okay. All right. Before we also get to the TV schedule, I'm gonna highlight this right here. I posted on Facebook the other day. So I've got two Facebook pages. I got my personal page, which I post many of the videos there. Not many, maybe one out of every 10 or 20, I'll post a video there. I just try to engage the 5,000 people that I'm Facebook friends with. 300 or 400 are actually friends, and the other people are just have become acquaintances. But people throw me Facebook requests, so if they don't seem weird or like they're trying to scam somebody or fraud somebody, I accept their Facebook friend requests. So I've got 5,000 Facebook friends. So anyway, of course, I'm going to push the channel there from time to time. But I sent something out about my beard. That's also a lead into that we have a Facebook page, Mark Rogers TV, Mark Rogers TV, Facebook. It's all consistent, Mark Rogers TV. And people have asked me, why don't you have anything about college football in your name? That's another story for another time, and I've told that about 10 times as well. So on Facebook, yes, follow me at Mark Rogers TV. Give me a like there. Also, on my regular Facebook page, we're going to go to my Facebook page here real quick, because what I've done here is I asked beard or no beard. To beard or not to beard? At this point, this was yesterday. This was actually close to 2 days ago. A couple more days of growth. Little unruly and itchy. Might be gone soon. So I didn't plan on this. This is basically me being lazy or not having enough time. There were 2 days that I was late for meetings, or my boss could be watching. I was close to not being on time for meetings at work. Therefore, I didn't shave. And other times I was just lazy. And then it got to this point. And this is roughly, and it is roughly as long as this has gotten. And a couple of people called, and I was not able to take the call because I was online with either Bash Gaming or Victor. 860-325-3687. Okay, back to my Facebook page. It astounds me. I'll show one of my college football videos. I'll post it to my Facebook page, and there are 5,000 people that could watch it. 5,000 people on Facebook that are my friends. To be exact, 4,990. And I'll get 76 views. But then I post pictures of me with a beard and without a beard. If you're interested to see the pictures for whatever reason, you don't have a life, and I know you all have lives, but we all love to search online for stupid things. I've got pictures of me posted with a beard, without a beard, and I asked the question, to beard or not to beard? And I got 47 comments. Just bam, out of the gate. Well, within a day and a half. 47 comments. So my buddy who I used to play softball with, he said, playoff beard, don't shave until the Indians win it all. So I knew he would take a take on that. That didn't surprise me. No beard. Another vote for a beard for a little while anyway. I started my brown Super Bowl beard in 1987. Yes to beard and go Astros. Uh-oh. No beard. Love the beard. No beard. My mom always said beards are for ugly men. You two are too good looking for one. No beard. No beard and caps. That came from my friend Karen. And then we went back and forth. Looks great on you. I like it. No beard. Thumbs up to the beard. Just like a stash. Got a stash from my high school buddy, Mike Kolar. Not a fan of facial hair on any man. No beard. Yup. Love the scruff. I'm also a fan of the scruff. I like the light beard and maybe a goatee. But it's your face. You do with it what you want. Yeah, I will. Don't worry about me. I'll make the decision, but just having a little fun. No beard. Absolutely beard. Beard. Like it, but you look great without it as well. Beard. I vote yes. Looks good. Your mother probably will think differently, though. Absolutely. Mom doesn't like the hair too short. She likes it a little flow and clean shaven at all times. But mom's 88 years old. You know, she grew up in the 40s and 50s. Everybody was clean shaven for the most part then. Julie, okay. Scruff, I vote beard. Keep it going. I'd like to see it grow in. Go Tribe. Beard. No beard looks good. You look younger without it. I do. My kids always tell me, short hair, no facial hair. You look younger. Beard, beard, beard. Definitely beard, beard. Shave it to be in unison with Kluber. Goatee. You remember no Shavember. Okay, if you keep it really short. Otherwise, you will look older and distinguished with the touches of gray. If that's what you're going for. Beard, beard. Buddy, you look good either way. I really like the snarl in one pick. Beard, beard. Okay. You guys are probably sick of hearing about my beard. All right. On to the schedule. On to the live chat. Then on to the schedule. What are we looking at? It's only 10:52. We've got time. Oh, we got some votes in here on the beard. Let's go back and see. We got a couple. Terry Ann says no beard. Emmanuel says no beard. All right. Mark that down. I'm interested to see what the vote's going to be. It's clearly beard right now. And I don't know if that's people that actually think I look better with a beard. I think that's probably people that think, you know, my head tends to swing that way and not that way. But I think that's basically people just wanting to see me grow a beard because they haven't seen it before. To no beard on the live chat. Otherwise, leave it on one of the comments on any of the videos. Go leave a comment, beard or no beard. And I will take a tally and we'll keep this going. Now, the only caveat to all this, next weekend, I've got a family weekend at my daughter's school, the University of Rhode Island. And if she tells me that she wants me to shave, I will shave for her because it's go to the football game, go to the brunch, go to the this, and go to the that. And dad should look good. I don't want to bring any embarrassment to my daughter. Now, people have beards all over the place, so it shouldn't be an embarrassment. Maybe I should clean it up a little bit. But we'll let her chime in. And if my daughter, you know, she trumps all the votes. And of course, I would trump all the votes. But if I would go with a vote, I would go with a vote for at least a period of time and guarantee that if the vote was to keep the beard, I would keep it for, let's say, at least 2 weeks. I would say, okay, I'm going to keep it for 2 weeks at least. So leave it in the comment section of any of the videos. I may lose it on the live chat. I got Terry Ann, I got Emmanuel, but I might lose it in the comments here. Prince says the stash, Shane's stash only. Or maybe I'll give multiple choice. Maybe I'll put this on Twitter. Multiple choice. Kind of like a playoff baseball kind of hockey kind of beard that goes out here. I don't think I can do that. It probably wouldn't even happen. Ray 7337. Ray, Notre Dame, Virginia pick. I think they're playing Virginia Tech, actually. That pick you can find in two places. Either go to SG1 Sports. I did a video for them with my preview and prediction. Notre Dame, Virginia Tech. If you want to hear my analysis for 5 or 6 minutes, then go there. Or in my predictions video, which was just released late last night, Ray, got my Virginia Tech, Notre Dame pick. Terry Ann thinks Mizzou beat South Carolina. Terry Ann, if you saw my video as well on my predictions, I did as well. I like Mizzou. I like them straight up. I like them with the 2 points as well. That was the last line I saw. Prince says Virginia Tech by 7. So that would be one of those plays that I was talking about a few minutes ago that would be golden. If you're able to not only take the team with the points, of course, but you're able to find those games where Virginia Tech right now is a 7-point underdog. If they win, that game's probably going to pay off, I bet, $240 on a $100 bet, meaning $240 net. Maybe not that much. 7 points? No, not that much. Maybe 180, something like that. Beard is cool. 3 for the beard. No. No, that was 2 no beards and 1 beard. All right, we'll get back to football. Sorry. All right. That was Norman Franklin. Every time I see a new name, and you guys hear this over and over, so I apologize to some of the old timers that have to hear me repeat things all the time. But to some of the new people on the chat, if I have seen your name for the first time, I simply ask the question, who do you root for? And how long have you been watching? Because some people note that I've been watching for 2 years, but I just don't comment. And now I decided to comment. Either way is great. So, Norman, I'm seeing your name here for the first time. So, welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Miami straight up over Florida State. All right, let's go back here. I don't think that's the first comment. I don't think I can take it back to the first comment. That's odd. I'm only going back to Terry Ann's comment about Cal will win that one. And she was asking who Cal was playing. So my live chat is only going back about 30 or 40 comments. So I'll just look at those. So my apologies to anybody that commented before that wanted me to comment back. Terry Ann, Cal's going to win the game. Oregon doesn't play tonight. Will's jumped on the line. Good to see you, Will. Emmanuel, Cal will win by 20. Ricky's on the line as well. Connor's obviously the Notre Dame of MMA. Edgelord Gassington joins us from time to time. Good to see you. Friends with Benedicts. Woo! There's Norman. Go Browns. Emmanuel. Big USC fan. Oregon beats Washington. Oregon plays Washington today. Huh? Oregon plays Washington today. Washington at the Rose Bowl against UCLA. Miami has something to prove. Yes, verify, Emmanuel. Virginia Tech is going to get a beating. Ray, Notre Dame's number 1. The top 25 that actually makes sense. We know where Notre Dame is ranked, right, Emmanuel? Landfound helping us out on TV listings. Will, Washington is playing UCLA and is favored by 21. Yes. I've got a helmet guy. Prince with some stats, laying down some stats according to Game Day. Clemson's defense gets pressure on the quarterback 58% of the dropbacks, highest in college football. Mark, thoughts on Benny Snell? This coming from Shane Westwood. Thoughts on Benny Snell and Shane, if I'm remembering correctly, I don't want to mess this up. A longtime viewer contacted me on Facebook and let me know that he and his wife or significant other were expecting this week. This was about a week or 10 days ago. Shoot, I don't want to misidentify anyone. Anyway, this popped into my mind when Shane commented because I think it might be Shane. Mark, thoughts on Benny Snell for Heisman? He has really elevated Kentucky and played well with not a lot of talent around him. Bama and OSU would be very good with anyone at quarterback. And it's a great point. It's a great point. Ricky, best 11 o'clock game for you. 11 Central, 12 for me. Oklahoma, Texas. Got to watch that game. Under the radar, well, we'll get to the TV schedule. I need to talk to Shane here and talk about Benny Snell. What Benny Snell has accomplished week in, week out against good defenses, Mississippi State, Florida in particular, is astounding when you think about it because of the focus of the defense. It has to be stop this guy. Stop Benny Snell. And he carries the ball 25 times for $165, for $175, for $140, over and over and over and over. He's got a target on his back. If that's an Ohio State back, for example, J.K. Dobbins tears up defenses. Excellent running back. But the threat of the pass at Ohio State is through the roof. At Alabama, now with Tua, through the roof. The threat of the pass, the speed, the athleticism at wideout from multiple wide receivers, and the play and the accuracy and the delivery of the quarterback to stretch the defense is just astounding at those schools, to your point, versus the situation that Benny Snell plays under. Terry Wilson is not allowed to throw the ball more than, unless they get behind, which they haven't been this year, by more than a field goal or a touchdown early against Mississippi State. He's throwing the ball 14 or 15 times a game, Terry Wilson is right now. He's a running threat, which helps out Snell on the read option. But Benny Snell has a target on his back, and he continues to produce when defenses know he's the number one threat on that offense, and they are not too diversified elsewhere. So that should be taken into consideration. Benny Snell carries the ball so much that he's going to get possibly beaten down late in the season. He's playing another quality defense, not a great defense at Texas A&M, but he's playing against another SEC caliber defense today for a fourth consecutive week. And this is one of the reasons why I'm siding towards Texas A&M and have selected the Aggies to win the game, because I think Kentucky might be a better team week to week. Look at what they've accomplished the last 3 weeks defensively in particular. But for a fourth consecutive week to get up when you know that Kyle Field is going to be raucous and supercharging this Aggies team, I'm just pulling the plug on Kentucky this week. And I have enjoyed the ride. And that's not going to end their season. They're just going to have the one SEC loss, even if they lose tonight, of course. And then they'll line up against Georgia in about 3 or 4 weeks. So that's my thought about Benny Snell, is that he is a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate. He should be taken more seriously. And I hate this about the Heisman. So I already named a couple things that I hate about the Heisman. And I do believe it to be the most prestigious award in all of sports. Who remembers who wins NFL MVPs? I think there was a day and time when most of us remembered who won baseball MVPs. That was a big deal, but nobody remembers now. Baseball's been, as a national sport, unfortunately taken off the radar. It's a regional sport. I had a great discussion with my son about that yesterday, trying to explain that to him, and he's perceived it. And much of that has to do with social media, really gravitating to the NFL and the NBA. But anyway, back to the Heisman conversation with Benny Snell. I hate this about the Heisman. We have a predetermined list before the season starts, and this happens with all the major awards in college football that officially have lists. If you want to win the Nagurski Award, you better be on the top 40 list to start the season. Otherwise, we don't consider you. Well, that's ridiculous. Some kid like Iowa has 3 brand new linebackers this year who were special teams players last year. What if one of these kids is a complete stud? He's not on the preseason watch list? Who cares? We don't need a watch list. Watch everybody. I'm about to get fired up about this. Don't need a watch list. I hate these watch lists that I hear. So-and-so's been named on the Remington watch list during the preseason. I don't need a watch list. Watch everybody. Compare them all. Give them all an equal chance. And so unofficially, we have a Heisman watch list during the preseason. So a guy like Benny Snell is given a no pub, and then he does what he does. Now, if Benny Snell had the reputation and had the preseason billing of Bryce Love and went out against 3 quality defenses, especially Mississippi State and Florida, and chewed them up for $150 to $170, then Benny Snell would be at the forefront of the Heisman race. But he's not, because we weren't talking about Benny Snell. And even though he was very productive the last couple of years at Kentucky, I might be embarrassed to go back and see where I placed Benny Snell amongst my top 10 running backs. I believe I cut a video this year. I think I did. I try to do that every year with each position, and I only got to like 3 positions this year: quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and that's on me. But in past off seasons, I've released a top 10 rankings on every position. And I've divided the safeties and the corners, the D tackles, the D ends, the tight ends from the wide receivers. And I vow to do that this offseason. I will produce a top 10 list nationally of top 10 players at each position this offseason. I'm looking out my back window, which is attached to my kitchen. So it's a sliding door. And it was pretty remarkable yesterday. My son was over to watch the Indians game. And he brought his dog. He always brings his dog. His dog is fabulous. Love his dog. Dog won't stop licking me. It's just continuous the whole time he's here. And the dog went crazy. We go to the window. There's a bear. There's a bear up on the hill within 15 or 20 feet of us. And then the bear came down. The bear just looked at us. Heard the barking, just stared at us. Yeah, should have taken pictures. I didn't because I walked by a bear about a month ago, taking my walk/jog. And I talked about that on Facebook. But there was a bear up on the hill. And then the bear came down and walked and kind of left. And so we thought that was it for the bear because it usually goes up into the hills, up into the woods, and is gone. Just a couple minutes later, bear comes back down. The bear walks right behind my sliding door. Now, I've got a little chain fence that's just a couple feet away, so it was behind that. Not a real fence. I won't go into the description. It's there for a reason for somebody else. But there's a little fence that any animal of any type of weight or strength could knock down in 3 seconds. And the bear was within 3 feet right there. Big bear. Based on what I know about bears. So that's my take on Benny Snell in the Heisman Trophy. Tebow talk in here. I'm going to go through here and see. Exactly, Victor. Watch lists should be gone. Get rid of the watch lists. I hate them. Hate the watch lists. I'm going to shoot a video on watch lists during the off season. There are so many things I keep saying. I'm going to do this and going to do that. Tebow was an NFL bust. I cut a video on that a few years ago, Norman. That could be interpreted a couple of different ways. Do you think there's a quarterback in the history of the NFL who has an 8-5 record as a starting quarterback and was never given another chance to play? Now, I'm not saying that Tim Tebow was not boosted by an excellent defense in Denver, but he started the one season when somebody got hurt, Kyle Orton, I think. And Tim Tebow comes in. He leads that team to an 8-4 record. I think 7-4 in the regular season. Throws that famous overtime touchdown pass, the first overtime game in NFL history under the new rules. And throws the touchdown pass to, I don't remember who that was. Demaryius Thomas? I don't remember who it was. Against the Steelers. And then the next week they get blasted by the Patriots, and that turned out to be his last game starting in the NFL. Tim Tebow went 8-5, and I made fun of him the whole season too, to a certain extent, because people were going crazy about Tim Tebow winning all these games. But he was scoring like 13 points a game. He was not producing many points. Now, what he did do was produce points in the clutch. He did lead the Broncos down the field many times, several times late in the game to produce points at the end and win games. And was never given another chance to be a starting quarterback or a quarterback at any level of the depth chart in the NFL. So that is my disclaimer and defense of Tim Tebow, is that he won games in the NFL. Sure, he had a defense, but other quarterbacks are given credit for winning games that have a defense. And he won a playoff game, and they scored points in that playoff game. He played rather well. He threw for over 300 yards in that playoff game. his career record in the NFL, I believe, I'm about 99% sure, is 8-5. And he was never given another chance. And I had a big Tim Tebow pros and cons NFL quarterback, where he placed. I actually went through every backup quarterback. I had a list, and I went through every backup quarterback of the NFL and went through their credentials and their current status and their current level of play. And I rated Tim Tebow against every backup quarterback in the NFL to basically say he's better than roughly half of them. I don't remember the results. I should find that video. All right. Anyway. Bear meat is good. Some sweet bear meat. All right. Not too interested in that. Just got a text from my daughter. Is Ohio State playing today? Okay. We've got a problem in the Rogers household. Ohio State and the Tribe at 4 playing at the same time. Plus, I got to keep track of LSU and Florida. Plus, I got to keep track of Miami and Florida State. At the very minimum, at 3:30, I got to have the DVR rolling on those two games somehow. And it's going to take LSU and Florida, I believe, is a better game. It's going to take precedence over Miami and Florida State. And we love Cam Underwood coming on from State of the U. But Miami and Florida State is really not that important. Now, if Florida State beats Miami, that shakes up the Coastal Division because it hands Miami a loss. But you could say that about any game, almost any game on the radar. You could say West Virginia and Kansas is a big game today because Kansas, if they beat West Virginia, well, they've thrown a monkey wrench into West Virginia's season. So this could be said about, we could say this about Ohio State, Indiana. That's a huge game. If Indiana wins, it's a huge game. It's suddenly a huge game. But if Ohio State takes care of business, 42-10, it's not a huge game. Miami, Florida State's a rivalry. I understand that puts it in a different category. It is one of the, again, pardon Cam, it's not the greatest rivalry in college football. It's not the second bet. It's not the third bet. It's one of the top 10 rivalries in college football. Miami and Florida State. That, of course, could be another video. Top 10 rivalries in college football. Basically, it's between two games. I cannot imagine a decent argument for any other games but two games as rivalry games as being the best. Okay. Army, Navy is in a different class, different category for obvious reasons. It should be given the respect and dignity that it deserves and honored in a separate way aside from football. Army, Navy, completely different class of game, different game. It's not watching a bunch of future NFL players or a traditional college rivalry. Okay. Army, Navy aside, Auburn, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. I can't imagine there being two better rivalries. So, spoiler alert on my top 10 rivalries video. One of those two are going to be number 1, and the other is going to be number 2. Oklahoma, Texas play today. That's going to be way up there, but it doesn't quite, for a number of reasons, approach Alabama, Auburn, or Ohio State, Michigan. Notre Dame, USC, yes, it's a great rivalry. It is not Alabama, Auburn, or Ohio State and Michigan. It's just not. Bren Nelson, Florida State, Miami. It's a great rivalry. It's a tremendous rivalry, but it's only been on the national radar for about 30 years. And that seems like a long time to many people, but it's just not. And there's a lot of different ways you can measure rivalries. And we'll get into that at some point. All right, why don't we get to the TV schedule? See if I missed anything. Edgelord. I think Death Valley consumes Tua. LSU versus Bama is on another level when they are both this good, but we will see once LSU mops the swamp and crushes the puppies. Well, I hope so, just because I picked LSU to cover 1.5 points. Norman, Kentucky will get some respect. Kentucky going to win. So I agonized about that pick. Texas A&M and Kentucky. I've got a cord problem. Kentucky and Texas A&M. Texas A&M. This is the ultimate, well, little hyperbole, ultimate slap in the face. Think about this. Kentucky was a 14-point underdog at Florida. They won by 11. They beat the Vegas book by 25 points. So then they come home against Mississippi State, and they're a 9.5-point underdog, and they beat Mississippi State by 21 points. They held them to 7. So they beat the Vegas book by 30 points. And then they host South Carolina, and they're a 2-point underdog, still after beating Mississippi State in Florida. Now, I thought that Mississippi State game would really cement, because Mississippi State, up until a couple of weeks ago, was highly regarded as like a 9-3 kind of team, a top 15 type of team. Well, Kentucky took care of them. Again, beat the Vegas books by 30-plus points, beat Mississippi State by 21. Then they play South Carolina at home. At home, they were a 2-point underdog. They beat South Carolina by 14 points. These games aren't close. Not that they were blowouts, but they weren't razor close games. They won these games decidedly by the points I just mentioned. So then they play South Carolina. They're a 2-point underdog. They win by 14. They beat the Vegas book by 16. Now they go to Texas A&M. And can you imagine, they're a 5.5 to 6-point underdog. Can you imagine if Kentucky would have played to the degree and the standard that Vegas believed they would play? They would have lost to Florida by 2 touchdowns. They would have come home and lost to Mississippi State by 10. Then they would have lost to South Carolina by a field goal. When in actuality, if those results would have played out that way, by the time they got to South Carolina, they would have been a 10-point underdog. But they beat all those teams outright as double-digit in times underdog, and now they come up against Texas A&M. So I agonized about this game because of this. Kentucky's defense has to be for real. I know that those 3 offenses are struggling, but to hold those kind of teams with SEC talent to 7 and 16 and 10 is exceptional. And Allen and Jones and Edwards, those 3 guys are 3 of the best at their positions in college football. Talking about Jordan Jones, Josh Allen, Mike Edwards. All right. But they had to get up and play really good SEC caliber teams, not great teams, not Georgia, but they had to play South Carolina, Florida, Mississippi State, top 30 type teams 3 consecutive weeks and get up for those games. I just think that to get up a 4th consecutive week for a tough team on the road in that environment, when Texas A&M now has Kentucky on its radar. This isn't Texas A&M thinking, oh, we got to play Alabama and LSU and Mississippi State and all these tough teams, and oh, it's Kentucky week. No, they know about Kentucky at this point. So Kentucky's not going to sneak up on Texas A&M. So I do like the Aggies. I just think Kentucky's going to hit a thud this week. Not that they're not a good team, but I see a letdown. And I'm not a big believer in letdowns and trap games, and I don't play that up as much as a lot of people do. I typically just look at the teams, and whoever I think is better, I predict that they're going to win. But this one I see, man, a lot of energy expended 3 consecutive weeks. Nebraska ready for a smackdown tonight. And Navy Thomas 8 brought this to my attention this week, and I looked at it. It is very odd, and I mentioned this, giving credit to Navy Thomas, during my prediction video, that I believe I did, Navy Thomas, if I didn't give you credit, I am now. In my prediction video that Navy Thomas pointed this out. Wisconsin opened as a 23-point favorite on Monday. They were down to 17 or 17.5 when I looked at it yesterday. It's odd. Nobody got hurt. The Wisconsin tight end is out for the season. They've got 3 other guys that are catching just as many passes. They're just as good. It doesn't matter. So I don't know what happened there. Navy Thomas, 18.5. So I was able to get on one of these sites 17.5. So I took Wisconsin covering 17.5. Stop picking against the SEC East. Iowa should have beat Wisconsin. Special teams mistakes doomed us. Yes. The muffed punt, the fumbled punt at your own 10, Ricky. That was a killer. Victor, Iowa City is an awesome college town. And to Victor's point, who is selling the super chat, and we're going to go on Patreon at some point if I can figure a few things out, and some other ways in which we can generate cash. Let's see. What would be the other one? Amazon affiliate. If you go to Amazon and do your shopping there, please use one of the links in the description section. Go to any of the videos, grab the link in the description section, shop on Amazon. The reason I bring that up, when Victor brings up that Iowa City's a great college town, I would love to take the crew. That would be me. Take the crew and we go to Iowa City. Maybe I would need a crew by then. Which reminds me, somebody mentioned the other day that the Boston College Miami game's on a Friday night. So let me throw this out there. I don't know if it's going to happen. Boy, excuse me. Don't know if it's going to happen. But on that Friday night, maybe Miami people, Boston College people. I know I have a ton more Boston College fans than anything. But Miami fans, if you are out there as well, Miami fans, Boston College fans, let me know if you're going to be at the BC Miami game in Boston or whatever the town is. It's Cherry Hill, Chestnut Hill. Yes. Chestnut Hill on that Friday night, October 26th, because I hate to uproot the operation here on a Saturday because I'm trying to track all the games at the same time to provide instant analysis. And just because I like to watch all the games at the same time. And it drives me crazy trying to watch all the games at the same time. But that's a Friday night. BC Miami in Boston. If you're going to be at the game, let me know because I'm thinking about trying to get credentials. It's about 2.5 hours from here to go to BC Miami and show up and do some live streams and try to, I don't know if the internet's going to allow me to, but if nothing else, I'll record a bunch of stuff and bring it back and post it from the BC Miami game. If I get credentials, I should be able to get locker room interviews, and it'll take me back to my old days in the SEC covering games. Although it was a little different then. I had a guy with me with a camera, and we had the mic and the cords, and we had, $80,000 worth of equipment. I'll just have my iPhone. So my daughter tells me she will be over at 4 for the big games. Daughter surprised me coming home from college this weekend. All right. Bren, yes. Let me know when you come to Dallas. Oh, man. If I could do this operation the way I would like, yes. This is probably a bit too much of a pipe dream to run this organization because I would probably be more business manager, accountant, CEO than I would be analyst, and I wouldn't like that. But this is the way. It would be great to do it this way. We've got a big channel, and sure, we'd be on YouTube still, but that would just be a spoke in the hub. This would be the hub. YouTube would just be one spoke. then. We would have a website, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, or whatever it would be. College football coast to coast. I always thought that was a good name. College football coast to coast. Anyway, and there would be, like an SB Nation or some other sites, there would be sub-sites. And so you, Navy Thomas, would be able to go, boom, Mark Rogers TV. Okay, nationally, he's talking about this and that on the front page, but I can go to the Nebraska channel and I would have Nebraska contributors. So I tried to do this a few weeks ago with Mike McDaniel. You've seen him on here many times from inside the ACC and ESPN Blacksburg, and also from James Coleman, Big Game James from Gridiron Now and Sports Den Live. Those two guys were at the Florida State Virginia Tech game in Tallahassee, and I said, send me a live stream. Or that's a bit difficult to get out of there because of the limited Wi-Fi capabilities. Record something and send it to me, which they attempted to do, but it was just difficult for them to use the phone, and the Wi-Fi capabilities were down, and you've got 100,000 people there on their phones, so they couldn't do it. But that's what I would do, is I would have correspondence from all the different games bringing back reports, and they would fill up the various sub-sites, and I would still do my analysis here from home, but then I would pack up and go to the big games. I'd go to Miami LSU or the Iron Bowl or wherever. That's the way I do it. Believe me, up here, I've got this all planned out and figured out the way I would do this with the resources. Will is flying down to Clemson, Florida State. Roll with me and let's do this. Yeah, there you go, Will. Absolutely. You go down to the Florida State Clemson game. Now, I'm telling you, Will, that from the game, it's most likely going to be difficult for you to do a live stream with me. I think if you're able to pull it off, absolutely. Or just record something. Little pregame report, halftime report, postgame report, whatever it may be, and then I'll figure out a way for you to send it to me, and I'll post it on the channel. We'll do that, Will. Just let me know. You guys are getting into something here. I don't know what it is. Richard, America's Sport with Mark Rogers with soccer fans. Okay, so you guys are starting to argue about pay for play. I definitely have thoughts about that. We have addressed that in the past. Shane, if you're talking about paying players, I've had that conversation with a number of people, and we've talked about it. Unfortunately, for many of you, you join the channel, you see that we're talking about the Georgia-Tennessee game and the Oklahoma-Texas game and so forth. And then we've got all these weighty issues in college football, which I don't stay away from them. If they're front and center and breaking, I deal with them and I discuss them, bring those people on. The Urban Meyer situation, I think we did like 6.5 hours of Urban Meyer talk. So we deal with those issues. But unfortunately, then they get buried. So the pay for play, I have discussed that with a number of people that come to mind. Elika Sadeki, you've probably seen her on ESPNU. She was on. We talked about pay for play because it was during the Johnny Manziel controversy. I've talked to Mike Laval about it a number of times. There's a guy, I can't think of his name right now, but he covers very weighty topics concerning college football. I've had him on a couple of times. He's a great guy. He's on Twitter, but can't think of his name. And we talk about beyond the field, away from the field topics that are heavy and weighty like that. But then the video gets buried by 2,000 others, and you guys can't find it, don't know they exist. But I have produced a lot of content concerning some of these topics and breakdowns in the past. Yeah, Georgia Tech's running game against Louisville looked amazing. Somebody commented to me last night. They just were hoping that I was watching Georgia Tech Louisville. If there's college football on, then yeah, if it's the only game, I'm watching it, aside from that one. My son was over. We're watching baseball. We watched the Indians game, and that kind of filtered into the rest of the baseball games. And I did DVR Georgia Tech Louisville, and I watched a lot of it post live. The money college teams make often go to facilities both athletically, educationally. You guys are into something about all this. Okay, I'll let you guys have fun with that. Let's look at today's schedule. It's 11:32, so we probably have another 20 minutes or so. I'd like to give myself something to eat before kickoff. So I'm going to let you guys know. Excuse me, going to let you guys know how I'm going to approach my day. Now, my day is going to be a little bit different this week in terms of sports viewing. Because of that, this becomes difficult for me because my boy's going to be over, and now my daughter's going to be over, and my son, to even imagine mentioning to him that we would watch a college football game, any college football game, but especially a non-Ohio State college football game, over watching the Indians play a playoff game. My son wants to watch when he's over during weeks 1, 2, and 3, let's say, of the college football season. He'll mention to me several times during the afternoon, Dad, we could be watching the Indians-Royals game. Well, I'm not watching the Indians and Royals game. You know, I'm watching all these college football games. So my boy's an Indians fan, and he loves the Indians. He does love the Buckeyes as well, but the Indians and the Cavs, he's really into. He just figures Ohio State, you know what? Wake me up for the 3 games a year that they might lose, and I'll watch those. He's gotten to that point at the age of 21. When he was 15, he was an avid Buckeyes fan. But at the age of 21, he's kind of tuned out to, you know what? I'm not sitting here watching them beat Maryland 55-7. And even I, based on both being a college football fan nationally, and people sometimes say, you're trying to cover too much, but I can't help it. I love college football across the board. I'm a national college football fan. I could not. We had David Waters on from Gators Breakdown Thursday night, and I bring him up because he's a great example of this. A few years ago, David, myself, and a few other gentlemen, Mike LaValle from Last Word on College Football, and Chad Niepling, who did a tremendous job in organizing all of it at the time, they had the vision of building an SEC giant, a powerhouse of a media platform. And we had all the people in play that had the skills from an organizational and technical and operational standpoint, and from a media standpoint in terms of broadcasting, to get that done. So those 3 are big SEC guys, and then they just brought me along for whatever reason. They would give you reasons why. I thought they could have done it on their own. Point being that we were going to blow it out in terms of SEC. We called it SEC Breakdown. We were going to go full throttle. Website, the whole deal. That didn't happen. It kind of collapsed for a number of reasons. Well, David's a big Florida guy. He was going to contribute Florida first and foremost, but his take on the SEC as well. And so once that dissipated, he then focused on Florida, and now he has built a great platform for Florida football fans, Gators Breakdown. You can find it all over the place. I support it fully. Great stuff. But David is entrenched in Florida football. He has to live it, and he loves it. And I know he loves it. He loves other college football, but it's Florida all the time. People have mentioned to me at times that I should do that, let's say, with Ohio State. And I'm like, oh, man, that would drive me crazy. You know, beating to death the discussion about should we move the left tackle to right tackle and move the guard to center, and constantly and ignoring to a large extent the rest of the nation in the Big Ten. That would drive me nuts. I've got to talk about everybody. I want to know who the 10 or 12 impact players are on Oregon State. Yes, I said Oregon State. I want to know. I could name you 10 or 12 players on Oregon State right now because I researched them. I watch them a couple times a year, but I research them during the offseason. I look at the personnel. I talk some Oregon State football. I go through the schedule. I go through the preview and prediction of the season. I just can't let go of the national perspective on all this stuff. Why'd I bring that up? Anyway, let's go through the schedule. Today, I will be watching Oklahoma, Texas. There's no question about that. That will be on the main screen at noon. Oklahoma, Texas. But I'm very intrigued by some of these other games. Northwestern, Michigan State. You know what? Because of the ESPN package on Watch, I will have to go with Northwestern and Michigan State on the main screen because it's on FS1. And I will put Oklahoma, Texas on a backup screen, even though that to me is the biggest game by far. And then my third option would be Maryland, Michigan. Alabama, Arkansas. Come on. I have got to see that this is a touchdown game in the third quarter before I give this any play. Even if it's 10-10 at half, I'm thinking Alabama's going to score 4 touchdowns in the second half. It's got to be within a touchdown in the third quarter for me to have any mild interest in that game. It's going to be 52-7. Texas, Oklahoma is the best watch at noon, followed by Michigan State, Northwestern, followed by Michigan, Maryland. Other than that, forget it. Okay. Then, well, if you've got the SEC network, Mizzou and South Carolina is a nice play at noon. I would like to see that game. I do not have the SEC network. The company pays me, and they pay me pretty well, but they don't give me the SEC network. All right. At noon, if you have to be family and friends. And at that, you have to be dedicated family and friends. On the Big Ten Network is Rutgers, Illinois. Whoo! Yikes. All right, at 12:30 on the ACC Network, I think this is a nice little matchup under the radar. Boston College at North Carolina State. But those noon matchups, Oklahoma, Texas, number 1, Michigan State, Northwestern, number 2, Michigan, Maryland, number 3, that's on my radar. The ACC kicks off with a couple games, Syracuse, Pitt, Boston College, NC State, that are decent at around 12:30. Okay, at 3:30, of course, the noon games typically spill into the 3:30 window to a certain extent. But game number 1 for me, it's not even close. LSU, Florida at 3:30. Then Miami, Florida State. Florida State's got to show me. I will probably DVR the second half of Miami, Florida State if it's close. Now, I'll probably start to DVR the game at kickoff. And then if it's 28-3 at halftime, I'll shut off the DVR, and that'll be used for something else. Also at 3:30, that's pretty much it. It's pretty clear cut. It's Florida State, Miami, trumped by LSU, Florida. That's the number 1 game at 3:30 Eastern time. 3:30 on the Big Ten Network. This could be an interesting game. This is a game that I would love to watch. I will just not have time to watch it. Iowa at Minnesota. Then at 4 o'clock, Fox is doing that counter programming where they cut in and try to cut you off so you stay away from ESPN and ABC. Then at 7 or 7:30. But at 4 o'clock is Indiana, Ohio State. On the Pac-12 network at 4 o'clock, if you've got the Pac-12 network, and raise your hand if you've got the Pac-12 network. Nobody. Okay. Colorado hosting Arizona State. That is an interesting game. And Colorado's 4-0. They won their Pac-12 opener. That's an interesting game. It's only a 2.5-point spread. Colorado and Arizona State. Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. Good game. Pac-12 Network, 4 o'clock, but because the teams are completely under the radar, nobody put that on. All right. Then at 7 o'clock, we've got Central Florida and SMU on ESPNU. Okay, at 7 o'clock, there is no question. I go to Texas A&M, Kentucky. That's the obvious game at 7 o'clock. Texas A&M, Kentucky on ESPN. All right. Then at 7:30, Auburn, Mississippi State. So I stay on Texas A&M, Kentucky for a long time. Unless it turns into a rout, that's on my TV for a long time. For an hour straight until the 8 o'clock games kick off. I'm just watching Texas. Yes, Texas A&M and Kentucky. Texas A&M, Kentucky at 7 o'clock. You guys can't imagine how rough these 10 a.m. starts are for me. Then at 7:30, sure, Auburn, Mississippi State could be a good game that becomes a back burner game on a second screen, as does Nebraska, Wisconsin. I know Nebraska is horrible. I know Wisconsin should trounce them, but it's just something about Nebraska and Wisconsin. It's like Miami and Florida State. It could be an awful game. This should be an awful game. Wisconsin's going to beat Nebraska 42-17. So they're going to trounce Nebraska, but something still tells me that Nebraska and Wisconsin's on. I have to watch that game. There are certain schools that will never leave my consciousness as being on the radar. And then if you put them together with another good school, whether it's currently or from days gone by, then it still shows up on my radar. UCLA could be 0-11 week 12 and playing USC. I think they played the week before, but anyway. And something will still tell me up here, I will have to remember consciously that, oh yeah, UCLA is horrible because USC and UCLA are playing. I have to watch that game. Similar here, Wisconsin, Nebraska. Something will be telling me at 7:30 I should DVR that game. All right, at 8 o'clock, it's not even close. It has to be Notre Dame, Virginia Tech. So I'm going to have to weigh the Kentucky, Texas A&M against Virginia Tech and Notre Dame. Kentucky and Texas A&M continue to be a good game. An hour and 15 minutes into it, then that's going to keep the primary screen. And I'll put Notre Dame, Virginia Tech on the back burner on the second screen. And then I'll go to Virginia Tech and Notre Dame when this game's over, which should be an hour and a half before this game. So I can still see the second half of Notre Dame or the last 25 minutes of game time, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, and move that to the big screen. I usually have the 50-inch, and then I've got two laptops of 15 to 13-inch size on the second and third games. Then after that, you know, I usually say I'm going to watch these Pac-12 games and I catch them late. But now that I've been doing all this instant analysis after, you guys have ruined my Pac-12 viewing late at night on Saturday night. You guys, it's your fault. Because I used to always watch the primetime game, and then if it's close, I watch it to the end. If it's not, then I tune away, and at 10 o'clock, I start watching a Pac-12 game or two. And this week, we've got two decent ones with Cal, Arizona, and especially Utah at Stanford. Like that game. But what's been happening is I do the instant analysis on the primetime games, and we stick around and talk for so long and get on the phone lines in the live chat that it's 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning, and then I catch the last 3 minutes of the Pac-12 game. I'm going to try to correct that this week because I would like to see Stanford, Utah. I would really like to see that game. Okay, that's my TV lineup. You guys let me know what you want to see. It's 11:45. We're close to kickoff. I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. It's been kind of scattershot all over the place. Check out my predictions. I was 17-6 against the spread last week. I will not be doing that every week. I guarantee that. I'm sorry I cannot keep that up. 60-45 against the spread for the season is pretty darn good. 60-45 against the spread at 58%. You can win money doing that. Oh, do we have some late breaking news? Mark, you don't need to watch Pac-12 After Dark. That conference is garbage. NCIS Fanatic 21, you know what I do here. I watch the Pac-12. I embrace the Pac-12. We give you Pac-12 coverage, I think, like nobody else that does anything other than Pac-12. I've got to think. I can't imagine that there's anybody else that does all of college football that gives the Pac-12 as much love as I do. We got USC on constantly, UCLA, talk a lot of Washington, a lot of Stanford. I've had the Utah guy on a number of times this year. We've, of course, given some love to Colorado. Shireen Ryan from Zona Zealots on Arizona. We talk that up all the time. We've had the Arizona State guy, Jordan Kay, on from House of Sparky. Got him on consistently. Yeah. Shane, love the pregame as always. Thanks, Mark. Emmanuel, that's why USC most of the times we meet spank Ohio State and Michigan. Richard, thank you. Appreciate that. Shane, appreciate the comments. Thank you so much. You do, Mark, but USC coverage has to ramp up. Oh, man, I just can't get everything. I would love to focus on USC. Over the last few years, we used to have a guy on, Nick Dempsey. And Nick, if you're out there, if you can hear me, if anybody knows where Nick is, please have him contact me. I've got him in the cell phone. We had him on all the time, and became a friend. I cannot find Nick. But Nick Dempsey ran Conquest Chronicles on SB Nation, and we used to pound USC coverage. And then I would have Ryan Abraham and Keely Yoron from USC football and others, Drew Krinsky, Scott Schrader, ton of USC content for a long, long time. I've been a little bit more sparse with my USC content recently because contributors have fallen off and just not had the time to come on. They're still really good people, still love them, and they just have too many commitments outside. So, yes, I was really building up a USC following. We would get several thousand views on videos with USC. I posted a USC quarterback breakdown in August and put that on my USC channel. It's got like 5,000 views. So I built up a USC community. It's unfortunately fallen off, and we will try to build that up as well. Shane would rather hear Tulane recruiting updates than USC content. Where in the world is Nick Dempsey? So Emmanuel remembers Nick Dempsey. Yeah, Nick, again, he was running Conquest Chronicles. I know that he had some other situations that he needed to pursue professionally, and he gave up Conquest Chronicles probably about 6 to 8 months ago, and I've lost track of him. And we were, again, aside from being clients and contributors and media guests, we would talk off camera a lot, and certainly we're friends. And so I've lost track of Nick. Sean Baskerville, I believe this is the first time I've seen your name on the comments section at all. So as I always do, Sean, would love to know who you root for and how long you've been watching Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So I think I've covered all the ground. I've covered the beard. Again, vote beard, no beard, or any derivative of either. Goatee, Abe Lincoln beard, lumberjack beard, or you can just go beard, no beard. We're taking a vote, beard, no beard, and leave that in the section of any of the videos in the comments section. Don't leave it here because I'll miss it. Helmets, they are coming. I explained the helmet situation. I don't know exactly which helmets to buy. They have all these size criteria, and I don't know what those are. But we will get it figured out. I'll go to my helmet guy, right? And we'll get the helmets. I'll probably have to take a helmet into work so my helmet guy can look at it, then tell me which ones to buy online. But I've looked online. Don't worry. We don't renege on a contest. We handed out the turnover chain to Savage19, who won the turnover chain because he brought me the most subs, which we're going to have to go on another subscriber campaign. Believe me, the subs just are stale and dead and stagnant. So we're going to have to go on a subscriber campaign. I hate to do things like that, run a marathon or a telethon, but I'm going to have to do it. So the helmets are coming. The beard, vote for the beard, no beard. You got your previews and predictions to look at. Check out my predictions. They may win you some money. If you lose money, don't blame me. But trust the 58% time after time after time, year after year after year. But today, I have to say that I'm not fully as confident as I was last week. Bama minus 35. They win the game outright. Texas plus the 7.5. Plus they pull off the upset. West Virginia minus 26.5. Maryland plus the 17.5 at Michigan. Wolverines win the game. Northwestern plus the 10.5. Michigan State wins the game. Mizzou plus 2. Plus they win the game at South Carolina. BC in an upset special plus 6.5 at North Carolina State. Clemson minus 20 over Wake. LSU minus 1.5 at Florida. Florida State take the 13.5, but Miami wins the game. Iowa State plus 9.5, and they pull off the upset at Oklahoma State. Indiana 26.5, take it against Ohio State. Buckeyes win. Arizona State minus 2.5 over Colorado. Central Florida lay the 23.5. They cover against SMU. Texas A&M covers 5.5. For as much as I hate to make this pick, Texas A&M covers the 5.5 at home against Kentucky. Georgia wins, but take Vandy in 26.5. Auburn covers 3.5 in Starkville against Mississippi State. Actually, I saw that at 3. Anyway, 3.5 points. Washington covers 21 at the Rose Bowl against UCLA. Wisconsin covers 17.5 at home against Nebraska. Virginia Tech take the 7.5 against Notre Dame. Irish win the game. Stanford minus 3.5 cover against Utah. Those are the picks. I would rather have you watch the prediction video to give me more views, but I gave them to you anyway right there. If you need to check back and get those predictions, go back to the prediction video that I just posted last night. Give it a one last look before you start watching college football. Anything LSU, Florida, Oklahoma, Texas, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, Kentucky, Texas A&M. We produced and previewed all the big games right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Okay, here we go. We're signing off. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Thanks so much for joining the live chat and the live stream, even though I'm off my game at 10 o'clock Eastern time. Thanks for joining and supporting. Do your Amazon shopping by grabbing one of the links in any of the description sections on any of the videos. Grab the link, enter Amazon using that link, and that will support Mark Rogers TV. Victor, thank you so much for suggesting the super chat. And, of course, the newsletter. Send your email address to markrogerstv@gmail.com. Your email address to markrogerstv@gmail.com to get your newsletter each and every Monday, the voice of college football. We will see you guys later today. Late night instant analysis is coming your way. I'll let you know when as soon as I know. Right here at Mark Rogers TV. Thanks for joining.